Welcome to the Healthspan Collective, the podcast where science and wellness converge. I'm Nicole Doran, and I'm thrilled to have you join us as we dive into the world of regenerative medicine, integrative health, and the latest science and trends shaping how we live healthier for longer. Ilan Sobel has been the CEO of BioHarvest Sciences since July 2020, leading the company in leveraging its proprietary botanical synthesis technology to produce plant-based compounds without cultivating the plants themselves. Under his leadership, BioHarvest's flagship product, Vinia, a red grape-derived supplement, has achieved over $50 million in direct-to-consumer sales since its U.S. launch in May 2021, amassing more than 50,000 active subscribers. Ilan Sobel, welcome to the podcast. Thank you so much for being here.
Nicole, it's an absolute pleasure. Thank you for having me.
You journeyed all the way from Israel, correct?
Indeed.
Well, we are very excited to talk to you today and learn about your company, BioHarvest. So tell me a little bit about yourself, because I know you weren't always in the biotech industry, correct?
I've been in biotech now for 5 years, and I wish I would have started my career in biotech.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, this is, the heart and soul of biotech is ultimately the people in biotech are just maniacally focused around changing the world, around improving people's health and wellness. And you work with the most focused scientists that get up every day just having this deep desire to change the world. And after spending 5 years in high tech, and previous to that, 18 years in fast-moving consumer goods, for me, biotech has really been my calling to ultimately, at this critical, at the age now of 51, you kind of reach a spiritual stage of your career where you've done a lot of things, you've enjoyed great experiences living in many different parts of the world, meeting great people, but you get to a point in time in your career, at least for myself, where I wanted to leave a legacy. I wanted to leave a legacy that my children are proud of. I wanted to leave a legacy that, ultimately I can be able to look back and say, hey, I made a difference to this world. And when you can do this in the most critical subject of health and wellness, and specifically in our case, unlocking the treasures that exist in 500,000 plants that we've been given since creation, I think I have the best job in the world today.
Wow.
And it's a privilege to be CEO of BioHarvest Sciences and representing an amazing team of people that are really building a movement of change in the world.
That's amazing. So what was the impetus that made you want to get involved with BioHarvest?
I'm a very spiritual person, and I really felt that after selling a company, building a high-tech company, selling that company to one of the major beer companies, Anheuser-Busch InBev, I just felt that it was a period in my life that had to be about impact. And when you've still got lots of energy, you've got amazing experience and building blocks, I wanted to turn those building blocks and capabilities that I'd learned into impact, and specifically social impact. I really believe in life, being a spiritual person, that God shows us through the keyhole of a door or something. And there were just so many different unique situations that led me to the role of BioHarvest Sciences, where I started actually as an investor in the company.
Oh, okay.
And because I was looking for something, again, to drive impact. And I made a decision in my life that every one of my investments were going to be impact investments. So there I was with my first impact company, and I was blown away by this company. Just the quality of the people, the company's built by amazing, experienced, professional tenacity of Israeli female leaders. And as I did the due diligence, I saw a gold mine of R&D.
Okay.
I saw amazing technology that could be scaled, clinical trials, a really well thought through regulatory strategy and IP strategy.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, wow, this company has potential.
Yeah.
And I want to invest in this company. And
Okay.
together with a few friends, we invested in the company. And I remember I went away with my family to Europe. I was at the top of a slope. My 3 kids had left me at the top. The phone rang. And it was the CEO at the time of BioHarvest Sciences. And he called me up. He said, listen, can we have a discussion? I said, sure. My kids have left me. I'm sitting at the top of a mountain here, no problems. He said, listen, you drove us absolutely crazy during the diligence process. And, I don't come from a background of wealth. So, whether it's a few $1,000s or a bigger check, it's a serious due diligence process.
Right.
When you've worked so hard for every penny that you have. And Dr. Zaki Rakib turned around and he said, you drove us absolutely crazy. But I realized from this process that we need a professional CEO to come and run this business. And I was like in shock. I was like at the top of this mountain looking around thinking, wow, this could be an opportunity of a lifetime to actually be the person to mine the gold out of the gold mine and to bring this amazing technology, which really can change the world and unlock the secrets, the treasure that exists in all the plants out there with the unique phytonutrients and phytomedicinal compounds that are contained in plants that up until today, the industrial world has not been able to really harness because of the challenges around consistency. Right. Really difficult to deal with plants because the phytonutrients and phytomedicinal compounds are grown with a lack of consistency because you're growing plants in a changing ecosystem. Okay. You've got, changes in global warming patterns and climatic changes that affect ultimately what the plant produces. Right. This is the first challenge. The second challenge is around the fact that it's really interesting. The most important phytonutrients or phytomedicinal compounds that are contained in plants are found in such minute levels that it's just not economically viable to be able to use classic extraction techniques and to be able to democratize the benefits of those specific compounds. And then thirdly, specifically when it comes to pharma and why they walked away from the plant kingdom, in addition to the challenges on consistency and economic viability, it was around the fact that you can't patent nature.
Okay.
So we, BioHarvest Sciences, over the last 17 years, we've spent $100 million on our botanical synthesis technology platform.
Wow.
And our platform technology solves each of these 3 problems. We produce these critical phytomedicinal compounds with unique consistency and predictability in controlled environment.
Okay.
We do this in a way whereby we're able to maximize, really magnify the potency of the specific phytonutrients we're targeting and also still have a synergistic effect, and doing this all in a way which is non-GMO. We don't in any way change the molecular structure. Okay. And because of the unique ratios we get, we're able to get patents on our composition, patents on our process, and obviously utility patents. So we solve these 3 major problems. And so today, as I said, the best job in the world. Somebody asked me, how would you describe, what would you call your job? And I said, I think I'm the chief human utility officer of the plant kingdom. And they said to me, what are you talking about? I said, look, I feel with the technology that we have, that my role is to represent 500,000 plants out there.
Wow.
Who ultimately contain these critical phytonutrients or phytomedicinal compounds and want to give these benefits to mankind.
Right.
But no other company has figured out how to do that. And we sit now with this amazing gift of technology to be able to do this. But ultimately and importantly, based on the company's North Star, to do this in a way whereby we're focused on discovering, developing, manufacturing, and democratizing life-changing compounds from plants that are going to positively impact the health and wellness of hundreds of millions of people, and do this in a way that preserves the planet for generations to come, and ultimately deliver human utility value.
So can you break it down for me a little bit? I know you launched with your product Vinia. Can you break down which plants in particular is your first product using?
Yeah, so we have developed in the last, we started initially with Vinia, which is our red grape cell blood circulation superfood.
Okay.
And we started initially using Vinia as the validation of our botanical synthesis platform technology, because it is a platform technology that can do, all types of different plants. And we decided to focus on the red grape. Why? If you go back to the French paradox, and French paradox is very well known, whereby French people, they have a very fatty diet. They have
butter.
Lots of butter, lots of cheeses, lots of pate, but they have
Escargot.
really good cardiovascular health.
Right.
So when the scientists went to understand this, they realized it was from moderate consumption of red wine. Now in France, moderate consumption of red wine is 2 to 3 glasses of red wine a day.
Wow.
And when they went to understand this, they realized that it was from a group of polyphenols in the red wine that all work together.
Okay.
Specifically one hero polyphenol called piceid resveratrol.
Okay.
So a lot of the time when I say the word piceid resveratrol, people look at me like, we've never heard that before. And the reason why people have never heard that before is because we're the only company in the world that can produce piceid resveratrol from the red grape at a commercial industrial scale because of our technology.
So red grapes have...
Red grapes have tiny amounts of piceid resveratrol. Now, it's important to understand, many people in your listenership, I'm sure, have heard of resveratrol.
Right. I was going to say resveratrol is a pretty well-known supplement.
But what's interesting is that unlike human beings, resveratrol is not created equal.
Okay.
You have regular resveratrol called trans resveratrol or polyginum or Japanese knotweed. All right. Then you have what we produce, which is the Rolls Royce of resveratrol, called piceid resveratrol. Why is it the Rolls Royce? It's 25 times more soluble. It's well known in literature, 25 times more water soluble. Piceid versus regular trans resveratrol.
And can you explain for anyone who may have forgotten what the benefits of resveratrol are?
So resveratrol has many benefits. In our case, as it relates to the piceid resveratrol and the fact that it's so soluble, and I just want to make sure that the audience understand the difference between piceid and trans. So you have this amazing solubility, 25 times more soluble, and also the bioavailability is critical. It takes literally 20 minutes to pass from the intestinal tract through the membrane into the blood plasma. This is all based on our clinical trials. And our piceid resveratrol lasts in the human body for at least 12 hours, with a peak after 1 hour and a peak after 5 hours.
Okay.
Where regular resveratrol is in and out the body 3 to 4 hours. So because you have this amazing solubility and bioavailability, you have obviously critical efficacy. And as a science-based company, in our case, our piceid resveratrol together, working together like plants with catechin, quercetin, anthocyanins, like a synergistic effect, we've been able to demonstrate in a clinical trial the ability to significantly increase the dilation of one's arteries.
Wow.
And more dilation of arteries means better blood flow.
Okay.
And people today don't understand, or I guess they are starting to understand, the impact of blood flow and how important it is as a critical component of our body's operating system.
Okay.
So ultimately, going back to your question about benefits, more blood flow means more oxygen, more nutrients flowing to the body, tissue, cells, and organs. And that's all about more physical energy.
Right.
And who doesn't need more physical energy every day? More blood flow. Think about it when it comes to the brain. Inside our brain, you have 400 miles of capillaries. Mm-hmm. That's a lot of miles. Inside our body, we have 60,000 miles of arteries, capillaries, and veins. And we need to make sure that those 60,000 miles are operating like 4-lane highways,
right?
Not like little slip roads.
Right.
So that's why arterial dilation is so important, which is what our piceid resveratrol from Vinia is driving, making sure there's more blood flow. And in case of your brain, the more blood flow you have, the more oxygen. Mm-hmm. Vinia, our piceid resveratrol, is able to penetrate the blood-brain barrier.
Oh, wow.
So you've got more blood flow to the brain, more oxygen, and of course the removal of cellular toxins. And that's all about more mental alertness and goodbye brain fog.
Yeah,
1 in 3 Americans suffer from, according to a recent NIH study, from severe brain fog.
Right. I was going to say, what are the main things? Like, is this a supplement that people feel when they take it, or is it something that's working more behind the scenes and you won't really notice you feel different?
That's a great question. So what's amazing about Vinia is that people really feel it. Okay. We have today more than 50,000 active subscribers on the product here in the US.
Wow.
We have more than 9,000 verified reviews with a 4.8 out of 5. Wow. If you're getting a 4.8 out of 5 rating, you know people are feeling it.
Oh, yeah.
And that's what's amazing. So people normally feel our clinical trial was based on 12 weeks.
Okay.
So we always say to people, look, for best results, you need to make sure that you take it after 12 weeks. Mm-hmm. And it all depends on your genetics, on your BMI. But basically, some people will feel that impact in the first 2 to 3 weeks. Mm-hmm. Some people, it takes a little bit longer. But you feel the impact of increased blood flow. And what's really interesting is understanding the mechanism of action on how we are able to drive this increase in dilation of arteries and more blood flow. It's because what happens is the 60,000 miles of arteries, capillaries, and veins are lined with endothelial cells.
Okay.
And when the endothelial cells start to basically consume the Vinia, mm-hmm. the piceid resveratrol, these unique phytonutrients, what lands up happening is the endothelial cells start to produce more nitric oxide. Okay, so what's happening is the Vinia is getting to the endothelial cells at the most localized area, the most critical area, producing more nitric oxide. And I think we all know that as you hit the age of 30, the amount of nitric oxide that your body produces starts to significantly decrease each decade.
Yes.
And in addition, Vinia has a double what we call mechanism of action. So not only do we increase the levels of nitric oxide, mm-hmm. but we also are able to reduce the levels of what we call the bad stuff, which is called ET1. Okay. ET1, endothelium 1, is a vasoconstrictor.
Wow.
And as you get older, your body starts to produce more of the bad stuff.
Okay.
So Vinia increases the nitric oxide, which is a vasodilator, the good stuff, and it reduces the bad stuff, which is ET1, which is a vasoconstrictor. And as a result, you get the significant increase in arterial dilation and all the benefits of blood flow.
Wow, that's amazing. So these are all the benefits of Vinia. Okay. And before we started, you were telling me about some exciting other products that you have. Are they live or are they in works right now?
So our company has the platform technology. With the platform technology, it serves two businesses. One business is a direct-to-consumer health and wellness business, which is where we sell Vinia, direct-to-consumer and direct-to-doctor. Vinia is found in many of the top integrative medicine specialist centers here in the USA.
Yes.
And we have a product that we'll be launching towards the back end of next year, okay. which is based on the power of the Mediterranean diet.
Okay.
Okay. And obviously the core of the Mediterranean diet is olives. Mm-hmm. And similar to our technology, which we've used to create the magnification. In the case of Vinia, we magnify the levels of the piceid resveratrol 100 times versus what's found in the red grape. Similarly, in our olive cell product, we magnify a critical polyphenol called verboscoside.
Okay.
And I brought for you today, this is some of our olive cells here. You can see some
that's
of our olive
exciting.
cells, that we make in our bioreactors. And we'll talk a little bit more, I guess, about the process and how we produce this unique potency and clean product that we produce in our aseptic bioreactors. But in these olive cells with the highest levels of verboscoside in the world, there's no other company, just like we produce the highest levels of piceid resveratrol in the world in our industrial scale bioreactors, utilizing our process. Similarly, we do the same with verboscoside.
Okay.
And verboscoside, we're focusing on liver health.
Okay.
And many people will understand that here in a country like the USA, you have more than 100 million adults dealing with the challenges of NAFLD, non-alcoholic fatty liver disease.
Right.
So liver health is a really, really important part of people's, aging process to make sure that they're protecting their liver. And this is what we're focusing this product on. We just finished a whole set of in vitro tests where we demonstrated with human liver cells the ability to significantly reduce the fat levels utilizing this material. So, ultimately, these are the two compounds that we're working with. We like to call them super compounds, just given the opportunities to really change people's lives in our direct-to-consumer wellness business. And then as a company, we decided early last year to open up our technology and to actually, based on our North Star, with a strong desire, the vision of impacting the lives of hundreds of millions of people, we knew we couldn't do it ourselves. You can direct-to-consumer business, it's a great business, but, you get to 500,000, 1 million, 1.5 million. For us as a company, that wasn't good enough. We wanted to really drive that impact of hundreds of millions of people. And we realized that to do that, we had to partner with major
other companies.
Right.
Yeah.
We had to partner with major titans, giants of industry. So we opened up our technology to the pharmaceutical world, to the cosmetic world.
Oh, that's exciting.
Nutraceutical and nutrition world. And as I sit here in front of you, we have publicly shared that we have 2 major partnerships.
Okay.
One of them is in the nutrition space with the largest sweetener company in the world called Tate & Lyle.
Wow.
And Tate & Lyle, they're an amazing company, amazing people, fantastic R&D. They've identified some plants within the 500,000 plants in the plant kingdom that have high levels of sweet proteins.
Sweet proteins.
And so we're now working on developing the next generation of non-nutritive natural sweeteners. And the whole idea is similar to what we've done with our Vinia red grape cell and soon to be with our olive cells. We will take the plant, we'll take the cells from the plant that produce the critical phytonutrients. We take these cells, and what we do, it's a very interesting process whereby we do hundreds, if not thousands of experiments. Now we use a lot of AI in this process to be a lot more efficient. We change the food we feed the cells. We change the lighting. We change the temperature and a number of other variables that we keep in our black IP box. And ultimately, what we're trying to do at this stage is we get the cells to actually produce the exact same phytonutrients as the plant. We call this mirroring. And then we focus on that hero specific phytonutrients that we want to magnify by an order of magnitude. And we call that magnification. And once we've done this, we lock the cell bank. And we never go back to the plant. So in the case of Vinia, as an example, we mirrored, we got all the polyphenols, quercetin, catechin, anthocyanins, tannins, and of course piceid. We magnified piceid. We locked the cell bank. And then what we realized is that we figured out how to break a biological barrier of how to get cells. Imagine like a science experiment back at school, in a petri dish, in solid media. We figured out how to get those cells conditioned, tough enough, strong enough to survive in industrial scale bioreactors with liquid media, with shear forces, and in an 18-day period, multiply.
Okay.
And the cells are multiplying, and then because of the conditions, they elicit the critical phytomedicinal compounds. Then we harvest the cells. We drain all the water out, and we're left with this amazing soluble, bioavailable end material. It's clean. We don't have to deal with heavy metals. We don't deal with insecticides, herbicides, because ultimately we're growing in aseptic bioreactors, and we dry the material, and like that's our Vinia. You know, that's inside a capsule, the same amount of piceid resveratrol as one bottle of red wine or 1,000 red grapes.
Okay.
And unique potency with solubility, bioavailability, and ultimately the efficacy.
Right. So you're able to magnify the potency. You're multiplying the cells of the plant without having to grow.
Exactly. And that's how we are able to make it economically viable.
Right.
And ultimately to be able to democratize.
Right.
Okay, now I put my job as chief CEO of the plant kingdom to be able to democratize the power of these phytonutrients coming from plants.
And is there any kind of, there's no genetically modifying happening, right?
Correct. There is, whatever we do is we're just changing the surroundings.
Okay, so GMO is not a concern.
We are non-GMO.
Okay.
We don't in any way change the molecular structure of the compound.
Okay.
Which is really, really important.
Right.
Because other technologies, biological synthesis is genetically modified, and you're always synthesizing, say, for example, biological synthesis with yeast, using yeast or mold or other types of different hosts in order to grow. You're growing one specific molecule, right? You can't grow compounds. What we do is we're able to grow a compound with multiple molecules. And that's critical because where the power of the plant kingdom is driven by the synergistic effect of all the actual molecules, all the polyphenols working together, almost like an orchestra, like a symphony and an orchestra, right? And in our case with Vinia, the hero is the piceid, but you still have the other catechin, quercetin, they're like, different components of the orchestra all working together. And we all know that the synergistic effect or the entourage effect is ultimately what's able to really drive the efficacy in the human body.
Right. So you mentioned another product that you're working on with sweet proteins.
Mm-hmm.
So would something like that be, and pardon my ignorance here, would that be something that is a sweetener alternative, like a stevia?
Correct.
Or a protein, like a whey protein?
Okay, it's a great question. So we're really focusing on non-nutritive natural sweetness.
Does non-nutritive mean
zero calorie?
Zero calorie.
Yeah,
okay.
Exactly.
I'm just breaking it down for our non-scientists here.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Look, at the end of the day, when you look at the US market, stevia has been an amazing invention.
Right.
But there's thresholds.
Right.
Like some people like stevia, some people can't stand it.
Right.
Right.
I like monk fruit.
Right. And monk fruit, again, similar, you have pros, you have cons.
Right.
So there's a huge opportunity in the marketplace to develop a zero-calorie, non-nutritive sweetener.
Got it.
That is basically able to have the optimized taste. The challenge with stevia is that you have Reb A or Reb M, which is the sweet note.
Right.
But you have stevionoids, which is very bitter.
Right.
So when you're growing the plant, right, you get what you get.
Right.
Right. It's hard. You can't separate it out. It all comes together. Right. With our technology, we can increase the good stuff, right, by changing the variables. We can increase the plant's ability to increase the good stuff.
Okay.
But we can also work to suppress any bad stuff. From a taste perspective, in this case, from a taste perspective. Right. So that's why, we're working, tenaciously on some very interesting sweet protein plants that basically the world has not really heard of.
I was going to say, so these are just plants that
these are plants that Tate & Lyle have an amazing R&D department.
Okay.
That they've kind of imagine like, scoured the world and identified these plants that they basically had very clearly marked as these are serious future potential to be the next generation of non-nutritive sweeteners, but we need a technology that can democratize it.
Right.
That can produce it consistently, that can produce it with a way that magnifies the potency, because by magnifying the potency, it starts to become economical.
Right.
And so for me, going back to why I said I think I have the best job in the world, is that, can you imagine if we are able to crack this compound?
Right.
Can you imagine what it could do to the whole food system?
No, that would
in
be
the United States of America, and how that then builds to changing, people's habits.
Right.
Dealing with obesity, dealing with type 2 diabetes, everything stems from what we're consuming and, living a sedentary lifestyle.
Yeah, no, it's huge. Obviously, even right now, GLP-1s are such a big thing. And I think the reason, Americans especially have such a weight problem is because they have a sugar problem. So, and I know a lot of people, especially, they're very addicted to sugar. And if you say, you can replace sugar in this recipe with stevia or monk fruit, they don't want it because it doesn't taste the same. So if you could develop something that...
This is the holy grail. So this is really the target that we're working to. And ultimately, we believe that our technology has the capability to do that.
That's amazing. Because the other thing is, then you have on the other side of it, Diet Coke addicts. And it's like people love, what is it, aspartame.
Aspartame, yeah.
But it's so bad for you. So yeah, if it was a compound that was good for you, that would be life-changing for a lot of people.
Ultimately, when we look at the plant kingdom,
right,
those compounds, those molecules are waiting. The treasure's all there.
Oh, I love it.
And in fact, like when you think about it, we as human beings, we're actually harming the treasure every day.
So where's your team going out to find these plants?
So this is a good question. Look, we have a ethical sourcing team, because you've got to do this the right way.
Right.
In depending on the nature of what plants we're working with, right? Often we're working with partners who have the plant originally, right? They have the plants, they're using plants today, but they realize that this is not sustainable, right? They realize that they don't control the consistency.
Okay. They
don't control in some cases, the pricing if they're working through, like we have a partner, a good example, and one of our other deals is with a NASDAQ listed pharmaceutical company that has a certain drug that requires a very unique enzyme from a plant.
Okay.
And this company, like many companies out there, they're concerned because, you can get a certain material from a plant today, climate change, all of a sudden the plant's producing something different.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so you have a big problem.
Right.
Secondly, we live in a world where there's a lot of geopolitical tensions and sensitivities. You also can't control your pricing. Pricing is a subject of yield.
Right.
And importantly, you can't control your destiny because you don't have the IP.
Got it.
So all of a sudden, companies come to us.
Okay, I see.
And they say, listen, we really need this compound from this plant.
Right.
We want to utilize your technology. And we work with them. It's normally an 18 to 24-month process from getting the plant to doing the initial tissue culture work, where we basically optimize the cell banks based on the specification that they're asking us to. Then we train the cells. Like, it's amazing, Nicole, when you think about it. Plant cells are like human cells. They have memories.
That is crazy.
Figure that out.
To think about,
right?
Yeah.
Okay. The plant is like, every plant has a brain, has a system. So these plant cells are like human cells. So we figured out how to train these cells in a way to toughen them up, to be able to survive, like I said, in these large scale bioreactors, and then we go through a process where we train the cells first to survive in small bioreactors, get them used to a liquid media environment with shear forces, and then we get them ready to kind of jump into the ocean in these large industrial scale bioreactors, kind of like a fish tank, into the ocean, all these shear forces. You can imagine Finding Nemo, whoa, where am I?
Yeah, literally.
And then the cell realizes, oh, this is a nice environment. Let me multiply. And they multiply, and then off we go, and we produce in a consistent way the unique compound. And that's normally an 18 to 24 month process.
Okay.
And at the end of it, our customer partners, they own the IP rights to that compound. We have obviously the IP to produce it, and we partner with them on royalty-based manufacturing agreements.
Okay.
And we produce the compound for them in our facilities.
It's so interesting because, I'm sure many of our listeners take tons of supplements every day. You don't think about how many of them are made and the fact that I'm sure so many of them are not plant-derived. And I thought it was so interesting. You showed me a video before we started of what your manufacturing process looks like. And it's these huge vats of it kind of almost looks like wine, like red liquid, right?
It's the red liquid is actually what you're seeing in those large aseptic bioreactors. And, as you saw, the plant is a full biological facility. So sterility, aseptic bioreactors, and that beautiful, almost like purple-like color, that's the antioxidants.
Right.
That color is coming from the cells.
Right.
So we see as the cells get older and they multiply more, that color becomes more and more intense. And just by looking at a bioreactor and looking at the color, I can look, with our team and our scientists, we can look at it and say, that's got this level of potency in it because it's all correlated together.
Oh, that's so interesting. Yeah. So
and
interesting.
I wanted to also talk about, you mentioned how so many of your listeners are taking multiple supplements. And one of the things we didn't touch on when we talked about the benefits of blood flow is that if you're on multiple supplements and you want those supplements to be working hard for you, assuming those supplements are soluble and bioavailable, and by the way we communicate to our market, we're always educating the market on the importance of solubility and bioavailability, and making sure and explaining why our Vinia piceid resveratrol is so soluble, is so bioavailable. And assuming there's solubility and bioavailability, if you don't have good blood flow, those nutrients that you're taking from your supplements, they're not going to go to all your cells in your body.
No, they're going to accumulate.
So basically, that's why a product like Vinia works really well.
Okay.
In addition to other supplements, to help those supplements really do their job.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Tell me about the blood flow energy T sampler you have over here.
Yeah, I've got a few things here. Actually, when we first came to the US market in 2021, in May 2021, it's been nearly 4 years now. We've sold more than $50 million of Vinia in the US market. And by the way, I'm very proud to say, based on our North Star, hopefully you see a consistent theme that the company is driven by the North Star. We have not increased our pricing in the US in 4 years.
Wow.
Yeah. So $99 for 3 months on subscription. So that's roughly $1 a day. Think about it, $1 a day for all these benefits.
No, that's not bad at all.
And we don't plan in the short term to increase our pricing either, because it's all about democratizing the power of the unique compound. So we started first with capsules in the marketplace, the traditional approach. And then, we looked at the market and we realized there was some significant major categories where consumers were just yearning for better for you health and wellness. And one of those was hot beverages, specifically coffee and tea. And we looked at coffee because, America runs on coffee, right? That's quite a famous saying, right? America runs on coffee.
Oh, yeah.
And now, obviously, today, people are drinking coffee. Why? Because they need the caffeine. They need the stimulants, right? And we said, you know what? Putting our piceid resveratrol with all the benefits of blood flow from the increased arterial dilation, this is a perfect partner with coffee, because now when we take the equivalent of, in each one of these for example, K-cup pods. In each one of these pods, we have the equivalent of 1 capsule of piceid resveratrol inside the pod. Yep.
Oh.
And now for the consumer, they get great tasting coffee. We formulated this with Joe's Garage Coffee in Seattle. It's 100% Arabica coffee. We blind taste tests. You mentioned, like, I spent 18 years at the Coke company, so we know how to do quantitative taste testing. Nothing leaves our company without being at least parity to market leader or better. So this is an amazing tasting product. Premium Arabica beans put together with our equivalent of 1 capsule of piceid resveratrol. And now the consumer takes it in the morning, all in one. They get their kick from caffeine, and then they've got energy all through the day.
That's great.
From blood flow.
Right.
And they don't need 2 or 3 or 4 coffees, because our piceid stays bioavailable for 12 hours with a peak after 1 hour and a peak after 5 hours.
Wow.
So it really gets you through the day. And then what even more exciting is the decaf. And decaf segment in America is the fastest growing segment in coffee.
Is it?
Why? Because people don't want the jitters and the crash coming from the caffeine. But people like the taste of coffee. They like the sociability.
Yeah, the ritual of it.
Exactly. So we developed now a decaf coffee that gives you energy.
Okay.
But it's through blood flow.
That makes sense.
So we worked with Swiss Water Coffee because of just, again, the values of the company. As you probably know, many types of decaffeinated coffee companies utilize chemicals in the extraction process of the caffeine.
Yeah.
This is not something that we were going to get engaged in. So we scoured the world and we work with an amazing company, Canadian company called Swiss Water.
Okay.
And Swiss Water have their unique water extraction method to extract the caffeine out with 0 chemicals used in the decaffeination process. So we have amazing 100% Arabica extracted using Swiss Water together with our piceid resveratrol. And all of a sudden, the consumer gets amazing tasting coffee and the benefits of all the energy through the day through blood flow.
That's awesome. Yeah, because that's awesome. A lot of the times when I, go out for coffee or have an afternoon coffee, I would like a decaf, but I don't like that it's typically made through that chemical process. So that's wonderful. I'll have to buy some.
And so we launched our coffee in December 23, and we've sold a lot of coffee. And it's amazing how consumers are really willing to pay as well a premium for the health and wellness benefits. And then we started to get all these responses from people like, you got to develop a tea. You got to develop a tea.
Yeah.
And I kind of stepped back and I looked at the data and you realize that every day 159 million Americans drink tea.
Really?
Yeah. Coffee's slightly ahead, but tea's catching up.
Oh,
Specifically, basically, your millennials, right? And beyond, who are looking really for the health benefits of tea, whether it's green tea, whether it's herbal tea.
Right.
So we started the process, a lot of R&D, and we work closely with an amazing company in upstate New York called Caraway. And we took the finest of organic teas.
Okay.
Everything is Rainforest Alliance certified. Okay. So obviously just based on our North Star, remember North Star again, sustainability is at the core of our technology. Each one of our bioreactors, just as an example, can produce literally every 18 to 20 days the same amount of piceid resveratrol as you need about 8 to 9 acres of land.
Okay.
So it's like a bioreactor, as you saw, can fit in the space over here. And that's, the same amount of piceid resveratrol as 8 to 9 acres of land. It's crazy.
Yeah, that's significant.
So sustainability is important for us. And we work closely with Rainforest Alliance certified to make sure that they're working with partners through the supply chain that are utilizing the best of sustainability practices. And similarly, 1 capsule equivalent of our Vinia red grape cell powder in each tea sachet. And off you go. We have 4 amazing tasting products. We have classic English breakfast tea. Again, everything quantitatively, blind, taste tested versus market leaders.
Wow.
We have a great tasting English breakfast tea. We have a signature green tea, matcha green tea, and an amazing herbal tea, cranberry hibiscus. That's actually our number one seller in a variety pack. And today it's in tea sachets. In about a week's time, we're going to launch a English breakfast tea and matcha green tea in K-Cup compatible.
Oh, nice.
And it'll just grow from there.
Yeah. Oh, I'll be buying those matchas. I'm drinking a matcha right now. I love a matcha tea, and I'm even thinking it's niche, but for anybody who visits Pure Form, we do NAD IVs quite a bit, and Dr. Prita recommends drinking coffee while I don't know if you've ever done an NAD IV. No. They can be a little bit difficult to tolerate. So we have a few supplements that we give, and he also recommends that you drink coffee while you drip because it can help you tolerate it. And I'm thinking, with this coffee, with the extra blood flow, because you have the IV in your vein, it would likely help even more. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a good combination.
Yeah. Well, because some people, they have tough vein, like it's tough to stick their veins, especially if they're having any kind of like vasoconstriction. So interesting. What a great idea.
We have also in about 4 weeks' time, we have a chew coming out.
Oh, wow.
Actually, we developed for athletes.
Oh, that's interesting.
Because, for athletes, blood flow is king.
Yes, it is.
Right? The oxygen, the nutrients, the mental alertness, as well as the physical energy.
Right.
And when athletes who obviously have, very good oxygenation levels, we found anecdotally that we needed to give higher dosages.
Mm-hmm.
So we're developing a chew, which is a 2x formula. So it's got 2 times the piceid resveratrol in each chew.
Mm-hmm.
And this is also informed sport certified. Okay, which is critical for athletes to be able to consume it, to make sure that you're not in any way, you're making sure, I should say, that your product is always passing anti-doping laws.
Right.
And there's no banned substances. Every single batch is tested and third-party certified. And I'm really excited about bringing that product to market as well, and really focusing on a younger audience who really also are looking for the benefits of more oxygenation, that increased nitric oxide,
right?
And ultimately, driving, a better outcomes on the sports field.
That's wonderful. So did you incorporate glucose into the chew so that athletes are getting like?
So no, there's no sugar added into the product.
Oh wow.
Okay. It's 15 calories.
Okay.
Right. It tastes great.
Yeah.
And we've had amazing feedback from all the testing that we've done with athletes. We've done a lot of work with athletes. Ultimately, every athlete's looking for the edge.
Oh yeah.
Right. And anything that can, the critical importance of blood flow in the context of oxygen, in the context of removing cellular toxins.
Mm-hmm.
This is all a really important part of their routine. And obviously athletes are also taking other supplements.
Right.
So better blood flow, it's going to get those other supplements to work harder for you.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It'll help with everything, like you're saying.
So we've really tried to bring a portfolio of products. We kind of say, how do you Vinia? Right. More what we call our super senior consumer segment. They'll prefer the classic capsule.
Right.
You're much younger, super active, professionals that are working crazy hours, trying to balance the needs with family, kids, but also look after themselves in the gym. The chew will be a great product in addition to those, those athletes on the field.
Mm-hmm.
And then your teas and coffees, kind of works well with millennials and Generation X and Y. So
Definitely.
It's a good portfolio product to give people the optionality on, improving their overall flow-mediated dilation, their arterial health, and better blood flow with multiple different choices.
Yeah, you have something for everyone. That's for sure. Wow. Thank you so much for being here today. What an informative episode. I feel like I learned so much.
Thank you for the opportunity, and let me represent the plant kingdom here today on the HealthSpan Collective.
I love it. I love it. Is there anything else you feel like it's pertinent for the audience to know?
I would just say to the audience that, as a company, we're building a movement of change in the world.
Mm-hmm.
And that movement of change is really helping to show consumers as well as, in many cases, working together with integrative medicine specialists to actually show the power of the treasure that exists in the plant kingdom.
Yeah.
And we're building this movement of change. And for a movement of change to really become a movement that has impact, you need people to believe in it.
Absolutely.
You need people to join that movement of change. And what's amazing in America today is you have about 25 to 30 million people that actually go to integrative medicine specialists.
Oh yeah, it's moving. I can tell you.
Yeah.
Yes, I started working in this field 5 years ago now. The way it was perceived even 3 years ago compared to today is night and day. I think people have a really different understanding of the value of going to an integrative medical practitioner nowadays.
So it's changing rapidly, and really what we as a company are trying to do, whether it's basically in the supplement space or working on the next generation of science-based therapeutic solutions, being able to actually, in a way, go back to the future.
Yeah.
Right? And really harnessing the treasure of those plants
right.
is what we believe so critical for the future of the planet, the future of what will be 10 billion people soon. How are we going to feed 10 billion people?
Right.
Right. And, as a father of 3 children, I worry about that.
Yeah.
And it goes back to, I guess, where we started about, trying to leave a legacy for the world, which is what everybody in our company is trying to do. And we look forward to the support from your listeners to help us really join that movement of change. If they want more information on Vinia, they can go to our website, vinia.com, and learn more about the science. And if they want to buy the product, they can buy the product.
Right.
And then if they want to learn more about BioHarvest, from an investing side, we are a NASDAQ-listed company. BHST is our symbol. You can go to bioharvest.com. You can contact me. I'm a pretty accessible CEO. We have a 48-hour service level agreement to get back to anybody that that has questions. And it's Ilan, ILAN, at bioharvest.com. Or you can speak with our head of investor relations, Justin, JUSTIN, at bioharvest.com. And thank you very much for this opportunity.
Thank you. And where can people find the company on social media?
You can find us on Instagram, classic Instagram, LinkedIn.
Do you know what the handle is?
You've
we'll link it in the show notes.
You've got the CEO. You've put the CEO in a position that in a challenging position. But thanks for giving me a way out.
You're very welcome. We'll put it in the show notes. Not to worry. So thank you so much.
Thanks a lot. Take care.
This podcast was brought to you by Pureform, a comprehensive wellness center in Boca Raton, Florida. The website is pureformhealth.com, or you can find us on Instagram at pureformhealth. Feel free to message us with any questions, and note that you can connect with our providers for consultations over Zoom, from everything from stem cell therapy to hormone replacement therapy and peptide therapy. That's it for this episode of the HealthSpan Collective. We hope you found it insightful and inspiring. Don't forget to follow us wherever you listen to podcasts so you never miss an episode. And if you enjoyed today's conversation, we'd love for you to rate, review, subscribe, and send it to a friend. We'd also love to connect with you on Instagram. Follow the podcast at HealthSpan Collective and me at Nicole J. Doran. And leave us a comment on our latest post, letting us know what you'd like us to cover next.